And a basketball staff has been busy. We talked to Coach Woodson this week, which was a joy because he was asked why he was doing that. And he's like, well, I got to talk to you guys. You got a job to do. It's okay to talk to you all. So that is a breath of fresh air. He cracked jokes. It was just, I saw him on the golf course a week ago. I mean, this is a whole, I don't think people can understand the difference. It is a night and day difference in the environment.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, just from how he interacts with the media to the whole staff just being a lot more open and willing to talk to, especially the local guys. It's like you said, kind of night and day from the past few years. But it's good to, especially now entering his first summer, a pretty important summer for not only him, but the Indiana program in general, just to get a little bit more insight on kind of what he's looking for in the next month here with workouts starting June 10th. So here in the next 2 weeks, but really kind of how he feels about his roster before he can actually get everyone on the floor. He had a little bit of insight, not too much, but a little bit on the Jerome Hunter situation. So it's really good to see kind of where he's at, where his mind is. And where the whole roster is and all the relationships and how he's trying to build those relationships before the full rosters on campus, which we know, the freshmen are starting to arrive here next week. And then Miller Kopp, probably the last one to arrive June 12th, I think he said. So everyone's starting to get to campus. Everyone's starting to get back in the swing of things. And it'll be good to have a full summer this year compared to last year.
Well, yeah, and that's another thing. Coach does not know what he has. He knows what he has, but he doesn't. The guys that are here, he has seen. He's seen them on tape, of course, and he's probably been able to watch them. The guys that are not here, which I don't. How many is that? 6, 5, 6?
5.
Yeah. But they're 5 important people. It's not like it's 5 freshmen coming in, which in the past that was the case. And you're like, it's not as big a deal because they're not going to have as much of an impact. All 5 of these guys are going to potentially have and probably have an impact on this team. And there's going to be starters in that 5 probably. That's a major difference.
Yeah, and he talked about it. I mean, getting used to seeing kind of the strengths and weaknesses of his team. He doesn't know that much of the strengths and weaknesses at this very moment, just because he hasn't been able to get on the floor with them in a full 5-on-5 setting. So he talked a lot about watching a lot of their film, seeing exactly, he touched on what Rob Finney can and some of his weaknesses are right now. He talked about Trace Jackson Davis, Race Thompson, Trey Galloway, talked about a bunch of guys, but it's just so interesting to see all the work that he's having to do on film compared to knowing what he already has. And so I think June 10th, that first day when everyone's able to get there, get on the floor, is going to be a super exciting time for obviously the whole Indiana fan base, but I think specifically Mike Woodson, because now you'll really start to see and hear exactly what he's trying to implement. Because obviously up to this point, he has a goal and he has expectations of what he wants to do with his roster, but until he actually gets on the floor, he doesn't really know what he has. So it's going to be interesting to see, what happens in the first few weeks and what we're hearing from some of the guys about kind of the style of play that he's implementing, but also how he's running practice, how he's kind of running the off season here with recruiting also picking up. So it'll be a fun time to see everything kind of come together.
Yeah, defense. Talk about defense. He was asked about that. We played that clip yesterday just for comedic purposes, if nothing else. I would love to play that one again. But defensively, these guys are going to be in for an awakening too. That pack line hybrid, whatever that was that we saw, you're going to see a defensive team. I mean, back in the day, they just Indiana played a basic man-to-man. Worked pretty good. But you have to be coached. You have to be taught, guided, developed. You can't just put a system in and think people are going to match it. It's going to be a combination, not just of a different offense, but a different defense, because defense is critical. It's critical in the NBA. I mean, people think that they don't play defense in the NBA a lot. Well, that's not quite true. They do, because if you look at the teams that win, they're usually the better defensive teams.
Yeah, and I think the main thing that Coach Woodson talked about a couple of days ago when he talked to the media was obviously he knows he has 13 guys who are really high caliber players, but he also knows and expects a certain level from each and every one of those guys, and he knows he doesn't need to just play favorites. Maybe what the staff had to do just because they aren't as deep and as talented. And so if these guys aren't coming in and aren't playing the type of defense and the type of offensive system that Mike Woodson wants to run, he doesn't have to play him. So I think you look at what he's trying to do and the type of versatility that he has. Not only playing that hard-nosed defense is going to open up a lot more for the offense, but it's just going to make Indiana a lot more fluid and a lot more versatile in what they're trying to do. Getting out in the open floor, getting out in kind of secondary break opportunities with all this athleticism that the team is going to have this season is going to be night and day from what Indiana's had in the past. And so I think, he touched on it and said that while everyone's excited to see what the offense is going to look like, it's going to start on the defensive end of the floor because he knows how important the transition game is, which the previous staff seemed to kind of lack in. So I think the defense is really going to carry Indiana moving forward, but it's going to be in a much different way than what the Indiana fans are used to.